remove the wheel, use a 21mm socket. Take the lug nuts off. Pull the wheel off. Take these two caliper bracket bolts out. Use a 19mm socket. And take a pry tool like a screwdriver and just slide the caliper out. Take the brake hanger tool and just find somewhere to hang the brake from. This works good, and just make sure there's no tension on the hose. Now take the rotor off. If it's stuck on, if you can't slide it right off, just take a hammer, give it a tap in these areas. Just be careful of those studs. There we go. Popped off in one hit. And just slide it off. You want to clean up the hub surface before you put a new rotor on. Just take a wire brush, just clean up any rust or any buildup. If you see anything that's raised up a little bit, you want to take care of that. You could use a die grinder also, but be careful, you don't want to take too much material off. Take a little anti-seize and just put it on the hub surface. It's just going to prevent corrosion. Nice thin coat. If you need to adjust the parking brake, the adjustment's right here. You can use a screwdriver and just turn that back and forth either way, whether you need to tighten it or loosen it. Take the new rotor, put it on backwards first. If you have one that has an oily coating on it, you want to take some brake parts cleaner and just clean it off. Flip it around. If you have the rotors that have the drilled holes and the slots, you want it cutting into the pad. So this one would be the driver's side, the passenger side would be the opposite. Take this plug out right here. You can push it through from the back side or just use a screwdriver and pry it out. Transfer it over to the new one. Just line it up. And just push that in. There you go. Now pull the hanger off. Slide it upside down right here. Take a 14mm socket. Take these two bolts out. And slide the bracket right off. Now just take the brake pads off. Take these pad anti-rattle clips off. Take a wire brush and just clean up this area. Any corrosion or rust. When that's cleaned off, take some brake caliper grease. Take the new clips, slide them in place, and do the same on the other side. Just take a little more brake caliper grease just where the pads are going to slide, just right there. Do that on both sides. Now take the new brake pads. For this one, we're going to use the squealer on the inside. If you compare it to the pads that you took off, there was no brake warning indicator on the old ones, but we're going to use that right there. And then this one is going to go on the outside, just like that. Now we're going to compress the caliper. You can take an old brake pad and a caliper tool And just compress the piston, go nice and slow. As you do this, you're pumping fluid through the lines, through the hoses, back up into the master reservoir cylinder. Take the caliper slide pins and just use some caliper grease. Give it a nice coat. Take the bracket with the pads and slide it into the caliper. And if you're looking at the caliper like this, the pin with the rubber goes on the top and the other one goes on the bottom. Keep in mind when you take it apart which one came where. Helps if you put your fingers in between the brake pads. Just makes it a little easier. And we'll torque those after it's on the vehicle as well. Now slide the caliper with the pads over the rotor. Take the 2 bolts, get those started. On the top bolt, there is a bracket for the wheel speed sensor. Put that bracket on first before you put the bolt in. Now I'm going to torque the caliper bracket bolts to 62 foot-pounds. Do the best to get a torque wrench in there. For the caliper slide pins, I'm going to torque those to 32 foot-pounds. Do the best you can for this bottom one. Put the tire back on. Put the lug nuts on. Now torque the lug nuts down to 80 foot-pounds in a cross pattern or star pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. Go around again, double check.